Can everybody hear me? Welcome to the Sussex Practice Managers Association 11th Conference. Welcome, a huge warm welcome to everybody here in the room. Thank you so much for coming. So, we have some very, very key people in the room today, very important people. And so we really wanted to actually showcase what West Sussex Practice Managers Association does. So I'm Joan Wadey, I'm a full-time practice manager at St Lawrence Surgery in Worthing. I'm also very privileged to be the chair of West Sussex Practice Managers. And so I'm just going to spend 10 minutes going through some of the things that we've done and what we plan to do in the future. Okay. So first of all, we've actually become famous. Yeah. So can you remember, can many of you remember in the room last year, Nigel Sparrow, Professor Nigel Sparrow at CQC? You remember that? And can you remember the lively Q&A session? Well, we actually got a national tweet from him, and he actually thanked us for a lively debate. I don't know if many of you can see it up there, but it said, "Excellent conference at West Sussex Practice Managers Association. Thanks for asking me to speak," and a lively Q&A session. Do you know what, though? He really took that on board, and we've actually worked more collaboratively with CQC going forward, and I'll tell you a little bit about that further on. So next, Professor Helen Stokes-Lampard, Chair of RCGP. Couldn't we get much bigger? So she said, an amazing event, West Sussex Practice Managers, well done. And then Dr. Chan Nagpal, Chair of BMA, fantastic. And he actually said that we were the backbone of sustainability in primary care. And I thought that was just a massive recognition from him that practice managers are so important to the sustainability of primary care. So if that wasn't enough, we've now joined the Keep Calm Brigade. So keep calm and let the practice manager handle it. So I think that isn't just for practice managers, that's deputy practice managers, line managers, anybody that's trying to sort of deal with the operational day-to-day running of a general practice. And I think we try to do that really hard most of the time. But come Friday, we sometimes need this. Someone out there seems to know practice managers well to sort of print mugs with "we need wine" on a Friday. So today, however, is a very special day, so you can start tonight with Prosecco. And I hope you join us for that. Okay, so we've also become very established. We've actually been running now for 11 years. We cover all of West Sussex, and we have a representative, a practice manager representative from each locality across there. So we have Worthing, Chanctonbury, Regis, Chichester, Ada, Horsham, Mid Sussex, Crawley and Arran, and we cover a huge patch. We also have really good support from ex-practice managers, so Nick Houston, who now works for Innovations in Primary Care, Liz Coulthard, who is just absolutely key to West Sussex Practice Managers. She's our patron, she's our treasurer, and we wouldn't have conferences like this without Liz, and big thank you to Liz for that. And also, we've managed to keep Karen Salas, who's been massive to West Sussex Practice Managers, and even though she's gone to the dark side, I'm joking, as head of primary care, she's agreed to stay and work with us, which is fantastic. So we've got a website. So we try to keep this very well up to date. You can book your training through it. We have all our work on there, any handouts from training, any evaluation reports, our newsletters, everything is available on there. New for this year, thanks to Claire Fallows, who's our Arran Practice Management representative, she managed to encourage Practice Index to share their 121 pages of what you need to know to be a practice manager. But on top of that, what we did was we actually localised it for West Sussex as well, because some things are obviously national, some things you have to localise. And so we paid one of our practice managers to actually localise that for us. So it's up to date and it's there for us. Now, we have it on our website, and you can download it as a PDF version. There are also some hard copies here. We gave them to our new practice managers at our local induction day recently, but we're trying to keep the cost down and keep it up to date and current, and really the only way we can do that is keep it on the website. So what else? So we've done a comprehensive training and education session, and we'll come on to show you that later on. We've got a locum bank register of practice managers. So if anybody they need some help short-term or long-term with practice management help in GP practice, come to your representative and we can access that register for you. It's also a plea right now that if anybody would like to join that register, that would be fantastic. So let me know. Even if it's a day a week, it's really helpful sometimes when practices are struggling, new practice managers or interim times. We have an annual conference today. Hopefully will be as good as last year's. I feel a little bit under pressure every year because every year we do so well. Every year I think, how are we going to do better? But hopefully you're going to really enjoy it. We do an induction training day for new and or aspiring practice managers, and that's really important. That's evaluated really well. We had about 22 practice managers or aspiring practice managers this year, and we will continue to do that. We coach and mentor practice managers. So these can be new practice managers, or these can be practice managers that are just going through a difficult time right now, or they've had somebody leave their deputy practice manager and they need help within the area that that deputy practice manager covered. And so we can really do anything to help. We can do that within your locality, or if you prefer to do it outside of your locality, we can buddy you up. You can decide who you would like, and then the West Sussex practice managers will pay for the first 3 hours of that. After that, it will be down to the GP practice, but we only do charge £30 an hour, which I think you'll say is a good value for money. We've covered that really. We have supported quite a lot of practices and practice managers in difficulty. We've done some of that in partnership with IPC, and we've done some of that alone. And we have had funding every year. We've a really unique position where we've had funding from our CCGs for those last 10, 11 years, which has been fantastic. We are really unique. Dr. Chang Nagpal said the same. We're really lucky and really grateful to our CCGs for the support so far. So we've supported 12 practice managers that have had needs, all different sort of needs. And we've had 287 delegates to our West Sussex Practice Managers training events over the last year, which is quite phenomenal, I think, the amount of training that we've put on. We've got more training ever before planned. We have the NHS Data Toolkit. We have new practice manager induction again, QOF and quality improvements now, finance updates, HR, all of the things that we need constant updates for. But we're also very nimble and flexible, and we can put training on as we need. So I would imagine we'll probably put something around primary care networks in to see how we can support practices and PCMs going forward. So what do you say about our training? And it's really good. This is what we want. We want it to be informative, interesting, current, and we want to support you, and we'll continue to strive to do that. These are just some of the evaluation reports, people that like some quantitative data. Health and safety, so 97% of practice managers said it was excellent or good. And also employment law, so really, really good. 90, 80, oh God, I can't count. 90% said it was either excellent or really good as well. We've also become a national voice, and some of you don't know this, but we're working really hard in our committee to try and push as much as we can up at NHS England. So I'm co-chair of the National Practice Management Network, and as a result of that, we are getting involved a lot within NHS level around the Workforce 2020, around patient online access, around NHS Digital, anything that they need help and support with. And it's really good that we can bring our practical perspective forward on that. We're also hosted by National Association of Primary Care, and they really do sort of talk about practice managers and how important it is at every level that they can. And we're very involved within the NAPC Home, which is very much a sort of starter PCN model. Very recently, we were invited to go to the Primary Care Network Reference Group, the very first one. And I would probably say it's probably one of the most scariest parts of my career to date, going up to Skipton House, sitting against amongst some of the most national figures I've ever seen, being Skyped into NHSE in Manchester. That was a new experience, massive screens everywhere. But it was brilliant, because I was the only practice manager there alongside doctors, paramedics, nurses, and we were able again to just put forward some of the views that you've said and come out with a really sort of practical, on the ground perspective on what we can do to support primary cares going forward. CQC. So CQC, Nigel Sparrow's kept very in touch with us, and so is his communications and engagements manager. I don't think Gary Higgins did, that came last year. I didn't hear much about him afterwards after you'd given him such a hard time, but the rest of them did. And and we've been very involved in the phone review going forward. He's wanted to talk a lot to us about the inconsistencies and the concerns that you've had with some of the inspection team, and they've kept the door open. So if you have any personal issues, please let me know, and we're able to forward that up to them. And we were also involved in the creation of the Practice Management Diploma, Level 7. So if you do that, you can then go on to actually get a master's degree in this. I think this is really important, particularly with PCNs going forward. It's all about upskilling ourselves to go forward and upskill in these big mergers, federations and PCNs. Huge congratulations to Nicola Collins. Where is she? Wave. Where is she? She's hiding. Nicola Collins, our representative for Chichester, West Sussex Practice Manager, and she's the first one to pass that first cohort with flying colours. So well done, Nicola. Really good news. Yeah. She's hiding. I can't see her. Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue to do the comprehensive training and education that you need. As you can see, we've got a lot planned going forward. But if there's anything at all that you feel we can add to that, come and find anyone with a green badge who's your representatives and ask them what else you would like put on. And Tracy, who's fantastic as our education lead, will endeavour to put that on for you. We're going to support and continue to support new and aspiring practice managers. There are a number of practice managers retiring right now, and we want to make sure that we have sustainability within primary care, so we are here to support those new and aspiring practice managers. We'll continue to coach and mentor practice managers, either in areas that they need development in or within the primary care networks, and any practices that are in difficulty that need our support. So, I understand now that we are I've got to get this right, Sussex and East Surrey CCG. So all of our CCGs, I don't know if many of you are aware, have actually now amalgamated. And I think West Sussex Practice Managers is very unique to our area. And I wonder now, following from what Chan Nagpal said, is whether we should actually be now looking at our practice managers across Sussex and East Surrey and see what we can do to support them, maybe help them create associations and build a bigger network to help that. And we're going to try very hard to secure sponsorship for 1920. We've had fantastic sponsorship up till now from the CCGs. We remain quietly positive, but we will let you know if we're able to sustain that. So I would just like to introduce you to two very key people in the room. So one is Wendy Carberry, who's Executive Director of Primary Care for Sussex and East Sussex, Surrey. And also Sarah Henley, who many of you will know, who's Director of Primary Care for West Sussex and East Surrey. And they just like to come up and say hello so that you know who they are. They don't want to come up, they just want to say. Did you want to say, you were going to say something?
It's you, Wendy, actually. Not that we prepped this.
Everyone kept saying to me, you saying anything today, Wendy? And I said, no. Clearly I am. So thank you very much for inviting us here. I just want to reconfirm really that practice managers are the sustainable backbone of primary care. See you as really key partners with me and my team to make primary care work across Sussex particularly. So look forward to working with you in the future, and please contact me, Sarah or Sally Smith in the East Side about any questions or anything you think we might be able to take forward together. So look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
That's me done, so I just want to thank you all so much. I'm going to introduce you now to our national treasure, Dr. David Whitehead. Back by unanimous vote. We absolutely love Dr. David Whitehead, so I'm thrilled to pass him over, and I'm really sorry I didn't talk about mobile phones or fire exits.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm David White, and I don't have a national treasure at all, but I'm lucky enough to be a semi-retired GP working in Scotland. So I'm a bit older than I used to be, and I've noticed that as I get older, a few things happen. I'm definitely grumpier than I used to be. I definitely need more sleep than I used to. I definitely drink more gin than I used to. And time just seems to fly by. So I cannot believe that it is 1 year since we were here before. My computer went wrong. That little clock down in the right-hand corner that tells you time, it went wrong. And I took it to the man in the village and said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Well, your time chip has gone wrong." He said, "I can replace it for you for lots of money." So he did. And my time chip has definitely gone wrong. I mean, it's just impossible that it's 365 days since we were here, but I tried to convince myself that it was a whole year, and I tried to convince myself by just sitting down and thinking about a few things that had happened over the last year. And I'm going to run through those. If I'm honest, it hasn't got an awful lot to do with practice management, but it'll be a bit of fun, and it'll help us just relax and bed in. So let's talk about some things that have happened since we were last here.
I personally was very disappointed that they named this boat Sir David Attenborough, because they were going to call it Boaty Boatface, weren't they? But anyway, I'm sure they had their good reasons. So, Brighton and Hove Albion. It was a season of two halves. We started really, really well, beat Manchester United at the beginning of the season. It was so good. We were doing really well till Christmas. And then things just deteriorated somewhat. They deteriorated so badly that in the middle of April, Bournemouth managed to beat us 5-0. So our poor manager, Mr. Houghton, he didn't survive. A very, very nice man, and I was sorry to see him go, but he has gone, and we'll start again in a couple of months' time and see how we do. A football manager who did somewhat better was this man in the waistcoat. Mr. Gareth Southgate took us to the semi-finals of the World Cup in Russia, and we won a penalty shootout on the way. So it was tremendously uplifting and exciting. Staying on the Russian theme, we learned that these two very nice young gentlemen...
Actually, this insults me to look at the 14th century clock in the cathedral. And nothing at all to do with knowledge. This was a disaster, wasn't it? Back in July, these 12 young football lads in Thailand who managed to get themselves stuck in a cave. I read quite a lot about it because I thought it was a fascinating story, and I never did discover how it was that they came to be in a cave instead of playing football. But it was the most amazing rescue story, and thank God that they were brought out alive. You may recognise this man. I still think of him as the culture secretary, but you may remember that he was also Minister for Health, having the longest serving Minister for Health in the history of the NHS. He was around from 2012 until 2018, when he became Foreign Secretary. In particular, he wasn't very popular with the junior doctors, was he? We may see a little bit more of him, might we, over the next 6 weeks. We'll just have to wait and see how Boris does. I like the royals, so I thought I should mention that there was a royal wedding. And I thought this one, it was always doomed to be second best after Harry and Meghan. But dear Eugene and Mr. Brookbank, I thought it was a good day out. We sat in front of the telly, we watched drank a bit of champagne, and we really enjoyed it. Here's another royal story. Of course, Harry and Meghan had their little baby, Archie. Lovely. He was one of 680,000 babies who's been born in the UK since we were last here. That is a lot of childhood vaccinations, isn't it? Every child has 12 separate needles in their first year of life, so almost makes me feel sorry for practice nurses, but not really. In August, the Office for National Statistics published this paper saying, guess what, we are living longer. Our population is changing and getting older. And despite the fact that over 500,000 babies were born, this paper showed that the largest percentage rise in any population group last year was in the over 85-year-olds. Anybody seen this show yet in Chichester? It's just brilliant. This is My Family. It's a new musical. It's on the Festival Theatre. Saw it the other night. It's absolutely stunning. And one of the stars of the show is Sheila Hancock, who is 86, who sings and dances and remembers all the words, which is something I could never do. Very, very impressive. There are some very impressive elderly folk around. Queen yesterday, of course, she's 92. How does she do it? But sadly, not everybody in that over 85 age group is quite as fit as those two ladies, and that is why, one of the reasons why, general practice continues to be so very, very busy. It's such a sad story. So this, it's dark, you can't really see it well, but that is that nice Thai man, the owner of Leicester City Football Club, Mr. Vishai Srivaddhanaprabha, who just a minute after this photo was taken, was killed in a helicopter crash. Now, I know that even with your vastly inflated wages, you don't ride around in helicopters very often, but it's a bit of a salutary tale, isn't it? You just never know what's going to happen in 5 minutes' time. So, cargo diem. It's interesting. It's therapeutic role. So, 2018 was the year that the cannabinoids were finally licensed for use in the UK. Only one indication is you can use it for people who have multiple sclerosis who suffer severe muscle spasms. Highly effective drug. But it does seem to be a bit of an amazing drug. And whether you have Crohn's disease or cancer or acne or autism, these drugs are highly effective, and we're going to hear a lot more about them in the next few years. On December 6th last year, my mobile phone stopped working. The O2 network went down for 36 hours. It was brilliant. And you know, O2 gave me some money to say, sorry, I didn't give them their money. I think it was one of the absolute highlights of the year. Another sad story. This bridge in Genoa, this motorway bridge, fell down, causing so many deaths. But in every disaster, there are always miracles. Look at that man in that green lorry who was just saved by inches. I read the week. Anybody else read the week? I love it. It's that magazine that comes through. It's sort of private eye size, and it just gives you a review of all the things that have happened in the world over the last 7 days. Good if you're busy. It's a good way of catching up. The most bizarre story that the week covered this year was the fact that somebody managed to swallow his Bluetooth earphone, and it came out the other end still working. And it just raises so many questions. What is it going? It's going on your screen, it's on the side, it's on the side. And then how did you get... No, let's not worry about it. January, what a relief, we had a 10-year plan, something we've all been waiting for. I think the NHS quite likes long-term plans, doesn't it? Because nobody's around in 10 years to see what happens. So it's a good way of giving out your strategy. And there are some important messages there. For instance, apparently we've all got to stop using our fax machines. This is the Leap Surgery's latest version. I'm very attached to a fax machine. Countless to-me referrals. Countless lives have been saved by that machine. And do you remember the old days of the co-op when you used to get all the little faxes in the morning that told you what had actually happened to your patients, instead of those long emails you get now that don't tell us everything? Look, if anybody wants to buy a fax machine, just come and word with me at coffee time. Alongside that 10-year strategy, we learned about the new contract for general practice. There's lots of exciting things that Richard Broadshield will tell us about a little bit later. For me, the most exciting thing was that my MDU subscription went down. Because instead of having to pay it all myself, the government now chips in to a very large extent. I'm only a part-time GP, but this has saved me over £4,000 a year. So if your GPs are whinging that they can't afford a new fridge for the treatment room, just remind them that there's a little bit of extra cash in their accounts. In January, Grace brought out this vegan sausage roll. Now, has anybody ever tried that? No. You have? Food of the devil, I thought. It was highly successful, wasn't it? Their share price was really deep. I might give it a go. I might just get great. This isn't our waiting room, but it could be. I guess it's not our waiting room because there's a Jack Sue. We should have a Jack Wills in our waiting room. That would be this is Gatwick, of course, and that
awful time when drones were or perhaps weren't flying through the skies, and so many people had their holidays wrecked. The Queen discovered they were a bit low on gin and sent Prince Philip down to the corner shop, which was a big mistake. And the poor man voluntarily gave back his driving licence. We had the hottest day of the year in February, the hottest February day ever. And do you remember just basking out in the sun, having a fantastic picnic? 70 degrees it was. Bit worrying? No, it's not worrying at all, because Mr. Trump says the whole climate crisis is not only fake news, it's fake science. There is no climate crisis. There's weather and climate all around the world. And in fact, carbon dioxide is the main building block of life. I have to say it wasn't when I was at medical school, but maybe, maybe they have discovered something new. Apparently, a lot of women found this man quite sexy. Well, I'll tell you a secret, this man found the lady quite sexy too. What a great show, wasn't it? Primary Care Support England, they deserve a credit, they deserve a mention because they've updated their website, working really, really hard to keep us all on our toes. There's one little thing you may not be able to read here, but it says, please allow up to 30 working days for your queries to be answered. 30 working days. I suspect that if you've got a GP asking about his pension, they'll give you about 30 working seconds to give them an answer. Oh, tragic events in Sri Lanka at Easter Sunday, 258 people killed, many of them at St Anthony's Cathedral in Colombo. This is a Boeing 737 MAX, and I suspect that not many of us would be very keen on getting one of those, even when they have turned the computers off and rebooted them. LK Bennett shut down. My wife was very upset. I was quite pleased, really. It did wonders for my bank balance. The three most important letters in the language were P, C, and N. Now look, this is very interesting because when I was at medical school, PCN stood for penicillin. And then when I was a junior doctor, it stood for percutaneous nephrostomy, sticking a tube in someone's kidney if it gets blocked.
Then I became a GP, and PCN was a primary care nurse. And then I went to the CCG, we were really excited because we invented patient choice navigators. And now, of course, it stands for primary care networks. But for me, a man who always forgets to put money in the parking meter, it will always stand for one of the greatest cricketers that England's ever had, scored 53 test centuries, Alistair Cook. And he scored his last test century against India at the Oval in September. And I am the world's luckiest man because I'm sort of retired and I was there to see it. It was a great, great day. And do you know what that rash is? Measles, yeah. If you'd asked me what that rash was a year or so ago, I wouldn't have known because I hadn't seen measles since I was a medical student. If I'm honest, I still haven't seen it, but I've been reading about it because I'm aware that it's on the up. It's a real problem across the Western world. I wonder why. Oh, Mr. Trump. A healthy young child goes to the doctor, gets pumped with massive shots of many vaccines, doesn't feel good and changes autism. Many such cases. What a helpful man that gentleman is. The media got a hold of the fact that there was a bit of a crisis in general practice. I thought the Panorama programme was absolutely excellent, really spoke to me because I did my GP training in Plymouth, where much of the programme was filmed, and where there was an extraordinary shortage of GPs. Back in 1984-ish, when I finished down Plymouth, I would have loved to have stayed down there and kept my boat in Plymouth Sound, but there were no jobs. I'm very pleased against Sussex, by the way. So, GP crisis, respectful magazines like Pulse talk about the fact that more surgeries are closing than ever before. Rubbish publications have picked it up as well. This is something you might feel.
Because all this shortage of GPs, all this shortage of practice nurses, all this shortage of everything, all the financial stuff that we have to deal with is, of course,
extraordinarily stressful. Now, last year I showed you this slide, and I said that I thought that stress levels within practice managers were very, very high. And if you look at one of these graphs that these people, these gurus like looking at, we're all supposed to be working here in the yellow sort of optimum stress zone. What I said last year was that lots of people were getting into this red stress zone. Well, things have moved on, and the CCG recognises this, so we've decided not to measure stress anymore. Now we're going for the panic indicator.
And as you'll see from the graph, panic is the next stage. We're getting into the red now. But the really, really good news is that you're not due your nervous breakdown for another whole year. So everything's going to be all right. It means that you've got to really, really enjoy today, because you might not be able to come next year because you might be in some secure unit somewhere. Later today, we're going to hear from Adam Kay, and many of you will have read
this book, this James Hurt. And you all have your own favourite story from that book. Many of you will be particularly thinking of the foreign body stories, but as you get towards the end of the book, there's some amazing words. It says, the NHS is made up of hospitals, pharmacies and GP surgeries. It's made up of the people who work there. And that is absolutely right. This is just a picture I really like from the CCG's annual report.
And what it says to me is that general practice wouldn't survive without practice managers. Because if we didn't have
practice managers, no practice would be ever able to recruit that very scarce resource which is known as a practice nurse. And if you didn't have practice nurses, this lovely lady would not be smiling and laughing. All those emails that you get from everybody, I think probably don't convey the message they should do. There ought to be a thank you button on everybody's computer, and every email that you get ought to end with saying thank you so much for the hard work that you do. Because I think that you are absolute stars. I know that in my practice, the practice manager is so important. The practice manager is the cornerstone of the practice. And general practice, of course, is the cornerstone of the NHS. So the NHS isn't all it should be at the moment, but if it wasn't for practice managers, it would be so much worse. And you should all be so proud of what you do and so proud of your practices. Do you know, I've spoken for 15 minutes and I haven't mentioned the B word, so I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. Okay, that's me. I am now going to introduce Mr. Adam Doyle. There is this expression, a meteoric rise. And I think that is a strange expression, really, because as far as I'm concerned, meteors go down. But here is someone who has bucked the trend, oh no, I've got a little bit of a meteor going up. Can we go back to... Anyway, he's bucked the trend because this man has become the Chief Executive Officer. Well, I was going to say 8 CCGs, but perhaps you're not. Has it already happened? It's now 1 CCG? No, this man is the Chief Executive Officer of 8 CCGs. At my time as a CCG, I found it the devil's own job just keeping up with the reading for 1 CCG. The paperwork was immense. How you managed to do all that reading for 8, I have no idea. You must have a very big brain and you must be able to read very quickly. Come up here and share your secret. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's quite funny. Actually, I'm stealing your slide. So, thank you for inviting me, first of all. It's a privilege to be here, first of all. And when invited to be here, I was a little shocked that I could come, which I think was interesting when people were saying, can you really make it? Well, of course I can make it, I want to be here. And why do I want to be here, first of all? Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. So I'm a physiotherapist by background and spent the majority of my career working in primary care settings. So I completely get that actually the practice managers, you run the show. Let's ignore people like Dave for just a second. We all know where the power really sits in every practice in West Sussex. So we've got just over 80 practices in West Sussex, and I've looked at the work that's been done over the past 5 years, really, as part of my taking on this meteoric rise kind of thing. And there is really good general practice, really good primary care in West Sussex. If you look at all the metrics by which a NHS manager / bureaucrat like me would look at things, if you are a patient in West Sussex, you get very good care. There are always areas where things can improve because that is sort of life and that is the NHS. However, looking at it, our patients get a really good service. I found David's view of the year interesting. It says more about you, David, than the rest of us, I think. No one mentioned the Cassia Neal Sean thing at Strictly, which really kept my house for at least a month. But also, the year has been, when you were plotting out all of the things that have happened, yeah, a lot has happened to us, the CCGs, and me personally. So my responsibility now is quite different to it was this time last year. I'm responsible for all the 8 CCGs that sit in Sussex and East Surrey. And I'm also recently the Senior Responsible Officer for the STP. What does that really mean? I go to a lot of meetings in Skipton House, and I have to answer to many people, and you never make everyone really happy. That's what I've learned in my life. So doing this job, you realise that you have 8 chairs, one's at the back, so that's always fun. Also having 8 memberships, well that's brilliant. And also having a number of things to resolve has been a real key challenge for us over the last 12 months. What I thought I would do is talk you through really what I plan to do and what I sort of need to do, if that makes sense. And then really be quite short with that. I've got 45 minutes or so, and then take the opportunity to hear whatever question you want to ask me. And I will answer whatever you want to ask. If I haven't got the answer, I will go and get it. But please, if you're thinking, what do I want to ask that bloke? Just ask me. I prefer to hear what you're thinking so I can then know what we need to do going forward. So, the NHS long-term plan, I agree, it's a good one, isn't it? Over 10 years we're going to do this, and the majority of that have written it will not be part of seeing it through. That's a reality of the NHS in general. But there's also the other part that, legally, the clinical commissioning groups of Sussex and East Surrey have the legal responsibility to implement the NHS long-term plan locally. That's our job. And I've had many discussions with all the board members, some are in the room, about, well, should we do this or should we not? And I've had to remind them that a CCG, whatever the thoughts of it, are responsible for the local commissioning of the NHS. So I take that responsibility really, really seriously, and it's a privilege to have that role, but also at times it's quite daunting. So I'm going to tell you what I've got to pull off in a year, and the reason I'm going to tell you that, I'm not really coming to tell you it, I'm telling you I need your help to get this right, to make sure it works. So, it was published in January 2019.
Typically with NHS England and improvement at its current point, we were sort of trailed bits for about 3 months before. They kept telling us bits that are going to be in this magical plan, and then it materialised. What's my general personal view of it? It's a good document. It sort of says all the things we'd expect it to say. It's high on aspiration. It's not that strong on how we can make this work, if you see what I mean. That's my general take of it. I don't see that as a bad thing, though. My general take with working in the NHS for the last 15 years is don't always ask for a rule with the centre. If there aren't any rules, that's not always a bad thing. So for me, I see it as a good thing that we can try and write our rules locally because we know our people and therefore we can try to manage it in the most effective way. But it does say the NHS is changing. And it also says that there's targets by the end of the next financial year, so by April 2021, that will have this thing called an integrated care system. Let's be honest, I don't think anybody knows what that means, but people keep speaking like they do, which is fascinating to me at this current point. And it is my job to work with the chairs of our CCGs, to work with my leadership team and my CCG memberships to actually say what that's going to be. What do I think it is? I genuinely think Sussex needs a plan because it has not really had a coherent plan for how we transform the health and care of our population for quite some time. That is a statement. There is no judgment in that. I've heard many times people have tried to do this, but we've got to have a plan together because I'm not sure that organisations that deliver care in our system today know what they're really being asked to do. So I think we have to be really clear about how we take that forward. It also says a fundamental shift in how clinical commissioning groups
need to operate to make sure that happens. It's just a reality. So for many of you, you have met me in many different forums over the last month describing how I think CCGs need to change, and I'll cover that as part of this presentation. So what do I think it is?
let's work it out. Right. 2016, there was this really interesting moment that happened in NHS policy. It will be written in the history books as a really, really dodgy time in the NHS, which was basically when all systems were told, go and write a plan and do not publish it. So that's brilliant for engaging the population. That's going to get everybody really on your side, isn't it? So I arrived into Sussex. I arrived into Brighton and Hove, for those who know a bit about my background. So I came into Brighton and Hove, and for you, Brighton and Hove, I've learned a lot about it. It's just a bit different politically, isn't it? And I arrived there to my first day, couldn't get in the building, no one came to meet me, and I was like, oh, I thought someone was coming to meet me to tell me about how I'd get in. They didn't come to meet me because there are people with banners saying the NHS here is dead. Which I thought, it's my first day in my job. What have I done? I live in London and I've come down through the Southern Rail strike and now I've got this.
And what that was, in my view, was an expression of the public who have a particular view in Brighton and Hove, but I think it's still legitimate, that if you're going to design services for us, could you let us know what you're thinking? And we really didn't do that. So the Sussex and East Surrey system, in my view, has struggled with that ever since, but I don't see it as something that came from the local leadership. The centre said don't publish the thing. What then happened is when the thing was published, suddenly there was another outcry because it wasn't particularly good, if that makes sense. So you've kept this particularly not good thing in secret, what are you all about? And that has really been the sort of the characterisation of our system over the past really, maybe sort of 3 years. I'll cover the meteoric bit in a second, I promise there's a good part of the story, I'll get there. So that STP is becoming an ICS. What will I do with that? I'll look at the long-term plan and say what are the asks of it. First thing is, all this acute services focus, we need to change it. It's very clear, for a population-based approach, where do you do upstream? You do upstream, in my personal view, working with local government, working with primary care practitioners. That's where you do it. That is the fundamental shift of our plan going forward. What that will therefore mean is quite a lot of difficult conversations, I'll be honest with you, with many providers who have historically held the financial investment in our system, and by that I do mean some of our acute trusts. So what we've got to do first of all is manage what is the plan for improving care to the population in an upstream model with local government. So I've agreed with the local government colleagues that they will rejoin our STP on its journey to this ICS thing. And they're really keen to do that, but they are not prepared to come and join that party if we're going to keep discussing the RTT target. I think it's a fair challenge, actually. We do get a bit stuck in the 4 hours, the RTT, the cancer standard. Some are really, really important targets that are really good proxy of patient care and experience. However, we've got to change our focus onto how we manage things in the community for our population.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I think you need to just explain what RTT is.
Fine, okay.
I personally just a bit confused about upstream models.
Fine, okay. So RTT is the 18-week target. So if your practice refers a patient into a consultant at hospital, they've got to be seen within 18 weeks. Nationally, that's a struggle, so constantly we're asked about it, so we talk about it a lot. Upstream, basically, there are people that you see coming into your practice every single day with a mixture of different presentations. When you look at the things that they actually need, when I speak to practices, there are lots of things about their housing, their employment status, their relationships with their family members, their issues regarding childhood trauma. Those things aren't fixed by designing a new acute hospital. So when I say upstream, that's what I mean. I also mean some of the levers to do that are within my very big portfolio of services, within my very big budget. I have no lever over housing. I cannot resolve that for you. But what I can do is I can influence local government colleagues if I work with them really closely to make that happen. So over time, we need to really work out what we do. And really the key part for us is to involve everybody in this design, hence why I'm here. So my approach is to speak to a number of different people to get your views of how we take this forward. So, the PCN, let's out it.
People weren't expecting that to come out of the pipe, were they, in the way it did? Let's be honest with you. So let's be really clear what it is and what it isn't. It's a national DES, first of all. So it's the first time I have seen for quite some time that the primary care delivery part of the NHS has been incentivised directly from the centre to work together. So we have tried many different forms of primary care at scale, federations and all other models, but this is the first time it's actually directly going to practices for things coming together. And my job is to sort of look at that and go, what's all that about then, really? And I think what it's about is the centre are saying primary care, they're seeing it coming together in a way that is perhaps different to the past. It is my job to also sign them all off. So I've gone through all of them and I've approved them all.
Nobody expected Sussex at the beginning of this process to have them all signed off because there's a history that our primary care teams have not always worked well together. I'd like to personally thank Wendy Carberry and Sarah Henley for the work they've done to make that happen. So we have 100% coverage, but all of our PCNs are at different sizes and shapes. I'm okay with local variation if it makes sense for our local population. It's absolutely fine. So we've signed them all off and that's gone up to the centre. I've had to have a very, very frank conversation with many of the people that you probably were in that meeting with, Joe, about I don't want to hear any nonsense about size. I've got most of them close to 30,000 or bigger. We're going with it. So that's the strategy that we've employed to try and get that landed, because it was my sense. If primary care comes forward with a model that it thinks it can do, we have to be seen to back it. So I hope that's been received quite well. So we've signed that off. The editors in England have to sign it as well, and then we'll get it moving, get it sorted. There's another part of it though. You'll be fully aware that DES does not commission these things into existence. So they can you can do your piece of your social prescriber and your clinical director. That's good, but that's not going to make them fly as a commissioned service. It is our job locally now to work through the CCGs to be really clear about how we then additionally commission things through a PCN model going forward, and that's our approach. How do we do that though? Well, this
is an interesting slide as I see it. I would see it because I'm a bureaucrat, but integrated care partnerships, this is a group of providers coming together to make that work. My sense is I'm not even going to get involved in this conversation at this current point. The job at hand for 1920 is about the PCNs working and working well. So what I'm trying to manage with our other providers is, no, the PCNs, let them get going before you start trying to be too involved in what you think they're going to be doing going forward. But we've got a job together over 1920 to work that in a way, because in 2020, the other providers need to be part of an integrated care partnership. And that will be a group of providers working together.
So what the long-term plan also says is that commissioning will change. So someone like me will no longer be having a big team doing service transformation in the CCG. Over time, I will move that into a group of providers to ask them to work together. We've covered that off, but I think the most important piece for us to really work through is
West Sussex, I think, is the one that has the most potential to move at the greatest pace. So I want to enable that to happen, not get in the way of it. There are some ways by which we can do that to really get that working going forward. Let's call out a few other things just while we're here. I think we've mentioned 3 times about the money for this conference, haven't we? So
let's be honest. Firm commitment that we will support this going forward as a collective piece for primary care. As my chair's know I love a bit of governance, so it has to be signed off by the CCG in the right way. But more importantly, there's a deal, if that's all right. I'll agree to fund this at least for the next 3 years as part of our offer for primary care. However, I need your help to help the others, so Brighton and Hove and East Sussex, to be in a very similar place, if that makes sense. So that's the deal. We really want practice management to be strong across the whole of Sussex, and you've got a great model. Why wouldn't we try and replicate that elsewhere? So that's the deal, if that's all right. Thumbs up, no contact at all. Next. So that's that. The other thing I would say is the role of the clinical directors. I really hear that's really important. So we've got a good discussion with them on the 2nd of July, new clinical directors, what are you going to do? They're going to need your help quite a lot, and we all know that, let's be honest, okay? Some of them haven't done it haven't done it before, some of them really are going to need some support. So really what I want to work with you is about what is your support mechanism for them as they start to develop and take things forward, because it's a different role and we're not clear how it really works for them, so let's work on that together. The most important thing I would say is I do get told all of the discussions that were held about PCN. So Wendy had the joy of calling me each week and then just telling me where we were, and she went, there was a lot of, well, you never guess what's just happened now, because that's a bit like that in primary care at times, isn't it? And I would say the agreements that practice has made to get to a good position in West Sussex, I'm really thankful for and grateful for. And I think there has had to be a little bit of accommodation of view. And I think it's important that we recognise that's not always as easy as you may think to make that work. So thank you. Right. Response to long-term plan, I've got to write one. I've got to write a response. And for those of you involved in NHS policy for years, there'll be 1,000 spreadsheets, there'll be 1 million templates, but the most important thing is we ditch that, we do that, has to be done, tick. The most important thing is we need a plan. And my commitment is I'm not going to have one random plan that's over there. I want a plan for West Sussex very clearly. And I want it to be agreed by me, agreed by the local authority, agreed by the CCG memberships, and agreed by you. How on earth we write it by October is what is keeping me awake at night, but that is my job to worry about. The most important thing though is you are part of getting that done. Because if I write a plan that has not been well engaged upon again, I'll be back to where I was when I turned up Brighton and Hove in that moment when I went, what have I done? So we need to work together to get that done and sorted. And myself and my team and our chairs are currently thinking how best we go about getting that engagement process right. So more to follow after that. Right, so I've done what a typical NHS manager do. I've offered the money, and now here's the ask. Is that okay? So let's be really honest with you. Right, let's see.
CCGs. If you want my general view of CCGs, I think they were a great idea, but some of their inabilities to manage themselves well in governance terms because of the inherent conflict because of primary care is just tricky. It is tricky. And also, 10 years of austerity? Some of them are and were just too small to survive that level of funding constraint. So remember, they were created at a time of investment, not at a time of disinvestment. And you've got to question that sometimes commission models are right for the time, they may not be right for the future. So it says that in the long-term plan. Let's remember, it is my job to locally enact that. Real brief history with this one. They replaced PCTs on the 1st of April 2013. In 2016, we were chucked into that STP that I've talked about. Then around that time, questions were starting to be asked about the future viability of CCGs. It's been going on now for 3 years. What's happened? Yes, you've got one chief executive for all of them now. That's a pretty obvious sort of direction of travel piece, isn't it, really, when that starts happening? Let's be honest, let's not try to pretend. This is the reality of life. The long-term plan says that all STPs have to become this ICS that I can't work out what it is yet. That's the first thing it has to be. It also says, which is very interesting, that in that ICS model, there should be one CCG, and that PCNs are in place and all that other stuff. So, I've had to
go back up to those meetings you were discussing, Joe, which have been delightful, to say one CCG in Sussex I do not think is the right thing. I've been absolutely clear that I think that isn't the right thing for our system. We're a big system, we're geographically quite constrained in terms of transport, and there's quite a lot of variance across our system going forward. Equally, I have stated very clearly that I do not believe the CCGs in their current form are viable financially or clinically. So what I've been working with our CCG chairs of the future, East Surrey CCG will be leaving our STP at some point this year and at the latest the 1st of April 2020, and will be joining Surrey Heartlands as an STP, and will work with them going forward. That's an agreement that their board have made, so they're going. That leaves us left with 7 CCGs to work out what on earth we do with them, if that makes sense. So the options are stay as we are, and I'm sort of discounting that one. The second option is to go to one big CCG, and I've sort of discounted that option. So in this situation, what I've done is what I tend to do in life and tend to do at home with my husband, I sort of try to negotiate the whole thing, and here I am now with you. I think a halfway house is the way forward for this. So what we're suggesting is
that the third option for CCGs is that we create a coterminous CCG in line with local authority boundaries. So we create a Brighton and Hove CCG, an East Sussex CCG, and a West Sussex CCG. What does that mean for the CCGs in this room? It means that I'll be asking the memberships of Coastal West Sussex, Crawley, and Horsham Mid Sussex to agree to merge to become one CCG, and I'll be asking them to do that quite quickly. Because I've got a few things on my desk to get right. The response to the long-term plan, ensure I've got staff to help PCNs to develop, to ensure that I also reduce how much it costs to run my organisations by 20%, because that's also a national ask. So that's where we get to for that. What does it mean for you? You see, I think as PCNs come together, my sense is that's where the action's at. So for me, I still see that working through our PCN model with our current primary care team is really, really important. And when I was restructuring my leadership team, the chairs are really blunt. They said, Adam, this is fine, we get it, but primary care, we feel, has always been, whenever you do restructuring, it always gets left to the last. So they were very clear about creating the post of Director of Primary Care to take this forward. So I think our chairs recognise we need to get it right. So my general take with this would be, is the CCGs need to change. I think practices, what they would see is the potential risk that the Coastal West Sussex offer gets a little bit denuded, because out of the 3 CCGs, Coastal West Sussex, I'll be really honest with you, it does primary care the best. Now,
hard message for some of my team to hear, but it's sort of the truth. And we need to take that and learn from it. So my view is, it's not about dumbing down what we do in Coastal Sussex, it's about bringing Horsham Mid Sussex and Crawley up to that level of primary care management going forward. So that's, I think, the first piece. The other part is if we don't do this, I am genuinely concerned about, because you've gone to those meetings, Joe, there's a hard edge to them at times, aren't there? My general take is we've got the ability to shape this ourselves before a nationally imposed solution comes down, and I think we will be wise to make that decision together. So really, really keen to have a discussion about it, really keen to engage you upon this, but that's really what we've got to do collectively going forward. So you may say that feels quite abstract to us. At a point in time, I'm going to come back and ask you to vote on it. So therefore, if I was here today, didn't mention it, it'd be quite disingenuous. So that's our bit. So what a take-home message from my presentation today. You like Strictly Come Dancing quite a lot. I recognise how hard your practices are working. I've got to get you involved with me on how we respond to the long-term plan. primary care networks are my main focus for 1920 to get primary care in a better place so that next year David is showing you a dial that is bringing the stress levels the other way. And the last thing is that to do all that, I will need to make an infrastructure change how the commissioning system operates, and I need your support to do that. So that really summarises my presentation as to where we've got to. Now it's your chance to ask me any question that you may want to ask. Everyone's told me you can be quite a spiky bunch. I'm quite looking forward to it. So by all means, ask away.
Hello, I'm a practice manager for a children's practice. I hear your call that you want us to help you out with these introductions of PCNs, etc. And more than happy to try and help you do that. But the problem that we also have to deal with, which probably adds to our stress and strains, is the sheer amount of change that is taking place across the rest of primary care. And this is both at CCG level, and I'd ask that you try and represent that at NHS England level as well. But when you just made a very brief list, and I've probably not doing it justice, but quality change substantially this year. So we've got to work out what that is. We've got frailty and ageing population combined changes this year. So as a different person, which I tend to feel are working in different silos, or introducing their own area of work without thinking of what else we're all trying to deal with. We've got the manpower reporting tool changes this year, the data security toolkit changes this year. We've got new LCSs coming in, which I'm more than happy for you to come in, so please don't stop that, because that means we're getting paid for the work we're doing, but it's all the things that we're having to deal with. The diabetes LCS has changed. We have got the West Sussex County Council's reporting tools changed. We're dealing with premises problems within our area. We've got changing CQC focuses all the time. So, as we deal with the last problem we were looking at, we come along with something else to surprise us with, which we need to reflect that. And then, top of it all, we get somebody from NHS England putting pressure on CCG to get me to tell you that they've ordered in flu vax, and that I've calculated how many HA people have got. And so it's all that sheer amount of other work that we're trying to get our heads around, whilst clearly your focus is for us to do the PCNs, which I'm more than happy to help with, but we seem to need, across NHS, either certainly up at NHS England level, but also down at the CCG level, to recognise that we can't just work in these silos potentially within your organisations. We need to see what the impact is on us as a receiving end.
So, fair chance. That's a lot to do this for now, isn't it? But that's helpful to hear. So please tell me if I'm wrong. Whilst we are the CCG, allegedly the delegated commissioner of primary care, there's still a load of other stuff that gets chucked down. Is that all right? I'm going to be honest. There's always stuff, isn't there? That's a bit of life. But there's a lot going on at the moment. So I think what we can commit to doing is be really clear through our teams about how we start to manage that process with NHS England, so that we can be clear about what is the ask, where is it coming from, and how does that work. What I'll ask Wendy and Sarah to do on the back of this discussion, and my team love it when I drop an action with them, so I'm going to do that now. I can't look at you as I do it though. Is to get a real clear perspective of, okay, what is all the crap that's going on? Can we find a way of bringing it to a West Sussex level, and that we can at least get a level of, this is what we think is coming over the next 12 months for West Sussex, this is what we think we need to plan for, and here's how we're managing the NHS England piece for you. I think the agreement will need to be that if you do get some crap that comes down, we need to know about it, because sometimes you're right, there are still some free radicals that happen in the regulators that send things out without going through the CCG going forward. So let's agree, we will try to hold the net for everything and try to find a better way of programming that through for you, and also finding a way of just going, why do you need to do that, NHS England? How do you make that work? And that's why I wanted the Director of Primary Care to report to me, because I am fortunate in my position to go to those meetings to say, that's a load of rubbish, why are you doing that? So I think we can find a way to get it right, but let's first agree to get a net around it, and then we can find a way of trying to solve it together, if that's all right. no, don't. Go on, I like that. It's fine.
Just to put you out there, I've been in primary care now for 19 years. I get that you want to have engagement, Adam, and I'm not against any of what you're trying to do, and I understand where you're coming from. When are we going to engage the patients? When are we going to have conversations with the patients? When are we going to have conversations with my receptionists? I haven't got time to talk to them about what's happening. And I think it's really important, if we're going to go on this journey, we've got to take everybody with us.
So it's a really, really fair challenge. So first of all, that wasn't that horrible, was that all right? You were all right there, so yeah, so well done. Well done, that's from growth journey, aren't we? There we go, you did all right. Right, what I'd say first of all is the first piece for me is, it is my job to fully engage the population. It's hard because as much as you think you're doing it well, you never do it as well as you can. So I'm currently thinking quite innovative models about how we do this. The patients, whatever you might think, we've got a national NHS that therefore means we've got a national system that is all about the clinicians, all the people they see. So I'm really clear. I can stand here and do my thing and talk about what I'm going to do. The patients, if they're sitting here and they can listen to me or David or your receptionist, I know where Granny Doyle is going to listen to, and even though she loves me very much, she's going to believe her doctor before me, I think, to be honest with you. So we have to completely spin out how we think engagement needs to work going forward. So my take is, first of all, we've got to have a really, really clear pack of what we're trying to achieve, and be really, really clear about that. I'm looking at really interesting models with the team currently about perhaps working through the CCG engagement model. I think it would be better if you were to fund appropriately a PCN to do that for us, really. And that way then you get the right message and it's done in a way that the patients understand it. Because even me got a bit of a telling off about what does this 3-letter acronym mean. So, you know, there's a bit of that which happens. So I think we've got to get it right, but also we've got to get it right because the lead needs to do it. Our lead needs to do it. But more importantly, if I don't do it, I'm not going to, this plan won't work. So I'm with you. My sense is, I sort of asked a question back. A lot of people talk about PPGs and say that that's the place to do it. I don't think they are, to be honest with you. And it's not because some aren't working really well, that's not the issue. It's, do they really have the voice of all the patients in your practice? I don't think they do. So I think we need to really consider what does locality or PCN, patient level engagement, look like so we can design things together. And the key part for my response to the long-term plan is to be really clear how we do that. Haven't got it lit, but definitely got it as an action to get right. And I think if you don't see it in the response we put to the long-term plan, I'll happily come and see you in practice. You can tell me off about it, but I'm pretty confident we're going to do it. Even better, saving journey. Is that all right?
Hi Adam, my name is Nick. I work for IPC, one of the federations here. First question, I saw you used to be a physio, and I wondered if you missed being a physio. And the second question was, I like a bit of governance too, and I wondered what you expected to happen with the hospital trusts. Do you expect them to eventually align with the CCG groups, or it's going to be this interesting web of relationships otherwise?
Physio, I love being physio. I would say, as a physio, I wouldn't say I particularly was treated as well as you could for a junior physio. So I was really good at chronic pain and really enjoyed working with it. But for those that have worked in chronic pain, you would realise there's not much of a physical intervention you give to that patient cohort, actually. It's often more about them, what's happened, their behaviour, you know, some trauma, those sorts of things. So I loved doing it, but after doing that for 4 years, I needed a break, to be honest with you. So what I've realised increasingly though, because I'm speaking at the Chartered Society of Physios Conference in a couple of weeks, and what I've realised is all the things I learned as a physio, I sort of do now. So actually, what do you learn as a physio? You learn to analyse a problem, to work out what it is, you put a treatment plan together for it, and then you get to implement it. Well, if you look at my job today, that is my job. So I do miss sometimes the patient actual contact, and what I do miss the most is these long-term plans will take a long time to have to see the product of it. Whereas it used to be nice when somebody would walk into my clinic room and say, "I'm feeling much better, Adam, thank you." That instant gratification was helpful. And when you've got 8 CCGs, let me tell you, you don't get a lot of instant gratification. On the acute hospital bit, well, I think first of all, as a management theorist, I think our acute providers should be in a acute chain. I think that. Because it makes sense to me that they would all have standard ways of working, locally nuanced, be really clear about how you make that work. I get that. I do think that the NHS leadership talent is not where it needs to be. So I think we've got a very good Trust Chief Executive of Western Sussex and BSUH. But I think the size and complexity of running those many organisations, it's quite a lot. And I think it's the same thing about when people describe practices coming together. It's actually more complicated. It makes sense, but then when you get into it, it's about the people, really. It's about people connecting with you. I struggle to connect with all of my staff every day, and I've got 1,000 of them over 5 sites. So I think, but when you've got a staff group of 20,000, which would be the size of it, how do you do that? So I think it's the right thing to do. They work very closely together. If it's about a merger, you can spend a lot of time in provider trust discussing that. I'm not sure it's particularly right for the system. What I have asked all the Trust Chief Executives to do is perform an acute provider collaborative, so they can have standardised ways of working, standardised clinical pathways. Does an organisational merger for them work? Perhaps slightly less than a CCG merger would, in my view. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Yvonne.
I'm Yvonne, I'm the practice manager of Dolphins Practice in Hampstead, and firstly I'd like to say a big thank you to you for the support that you're going to give to practice managers and realise the importance of the practice manager's role. But secondly, I think the CCGs could actually help practices greatly by giving some legal advice regarding VAT elements, and this is completely new to us all, and I agree this is the way forward with the NHS. We're not going to survive as individual practices. We need to do something different. But I think the support that CCG could give regarding VAT elements and those sort of things really would be great for practice managers. We're all worrying about whether we're going to be liable for VAT. We're getting separate legal advice if you're using mental services, which you probably won't be if you do a support service rather than employing individual members of staff. But is HMRC going to come down on us at the end of the day as the host practice, saying, your private income, you are liable for VAT? Has this all been looked into? And it's pointless us spending money, on solicitor costs when that is something that CCG should have access to for us all.
So, fair challenge. So the team already had to. As we were getting through the sort of PCM process, all these things started to bubble up really. What I would do, because I wanted to make sure we weren't wasting money on these type of things, it was I asked, is this coming centrally? Because that would make sense, but it hasn't. So I've asked for our own legal advice on that we're prepared to share with practice going forward. What's important on all of that, it will be advice that the CCG has taken for themselves, and also that can be shared with practices. But of course, a PCN will need to also consider that themselves, if that makes sense. Because we'll take it, but it's also about working out whether you are comfortable with that going forward. So recognise the VAT issues and HMRC pieces. So I think the team are expecting that feedback by Monday, and then we'll be able to share that with you.
Thank you very much. I've just got one question, and that's to do with relationships, because I think that's important. For me, it was a heyday, and my practice manager still remembers when we had a PCT, and we knew people really well there, and there was always
somebody at the end of the phone we could ask for advice. And it was nimble, and it was really good. I think we lost it a bit with the CCG. I think we built it up again. I think relationships are good in coastal. And I'm just a bit concerned now that it's going to be a very, very big organisation and people aren't going to know who to phone. It's a plea, really, to keep some localism. And if possible, a bit of a coastal identity, because I think we are a bit special, and that's special in a nice way. And I think no, we are a bit special because we've got great relationships. Let's somehow keep those relationships, if we can, please.
So fair challenge. So this time a few times for us. So I need to get the merger through, that's the reality, but it's how you get it through and how you make the operating model of the new organisation work. So what I've asked that Wendy does is that she does not incur the same management cost reduction to the rest of the organisation, so that there is a responsive service that can respond to local needs going forward. And we're almost in the, if you raise a concern, it's answered within a day kind of model, but we need to work that out and make sure we've got the right resources to make that happen. I think what you've seen in Coastal has been all the relationship bits. And I think it's not just about picking a phone up to a hotline, it's not that. What it is, I think, is about building relationships with someone who, if I've got this problem, I go to that person and they're going to get on top of it. And there are parts of that work really well, but I was at the Crawley CRG with their members this week. Good discussion the first half. Second half was a little bit though, hang on a second, we're still waiting for LCS Adam. I'd left the room by that point, which was probably unhelpful. But actually, you know, we have to demonstrate, don't we, that what we're going to do better. Otherwise, why would you go with it? So I think let us take back the challenge and we'll feed that back to the governing bodies that yes, the people seem to get it, but there's a real concern about local interaction or general practice. If we get bigger, how do you mitigate against that? So I'll take that action away.
Thank you very much indeed. So, congratulations on a fantastic talk. Thank you very, very much indeed. Are you going to be hanging around for
I'm
coffee?
here for coffee, then I'm off to an audit committee one day.
You lucky man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adam Jones. Please read this.
There's lots of reasons for us being here today, but one of the reasons definitely is to meet new people and network. And I'm going to set you a challenge, which is to meet 3 new people today. Introduce yourself, tell them where you're from, and tell them one thing that you're very proud of about your practice. And you can start to do that over coffee now. Coffee's going to last about half an hour or so, and then we'll come back and we'll hear from Dr. Richard Vautry from the British Medical Association. Thank you very much. Thank you.